Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 18, 2022 NFL predictions. Well, for this week against the spread and straight up, I had a good week. I went 8-7 against the spread, 53.3%, and straight up I went 10-5, 66.7%. So overall, a good week. Very happy about that, and just excuse me, very happy to keep moving forward. And now overall for the year, through 255 games, I am now 123 and 126 with 6 pushes against the spread. And straight up now, I am 158, 95, and 2. That equals 62.4% straight up. It should be 256 games, but as the whole country basically knows from last night, the Buffalo Bills at Cincinnati Bengals game was postponed after the catastrophic and tragic injury of Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin. It seemed so basic, the play. Just the simple crossing route to T. Higgins. T. Higgins just put a shoulder in him to get a stiff arm. Damar Hamlin tackles him down, stands up. 3 seconds later, falls down, collapses. And then we see one of the saddest, if not the saddest thing I've seen on a football field. In my 15 plus years of watching football, a literal wall of humanity was blocking off the 9 plus minutes of CPR given to Damar Hamlin. My thoughts and prayers are with the family of Damar Hamlin himself. I am happy to hear that he is, still, alive and in critical condition, but he is, they were able to get his heartbeat back at the stadium, and he did get his vitals back. So, my thoughts and prayers are with him, the family, the players of both teams, the fans of the Bengals and the Bills, and just football fans in general. Because, for everybody out there that does content, it's really hard today. Nobody went into that expecting, that to happen. Just for information sense for everybody out there was a player in the league. Back in 1971, October 8th, 1971. His name was let me find it here. Chuck Hughes. On October 27th of 1971, he was playing for the Detroit Lions in a game, and he died from a undetected heart condition. And he died on the field after he was standing in a stance. I hope that's not the case with Damar, but so this stuff has happened before. It's a rare situation. I was thinking even before that, the only thing I could think of was Frank Gifford and Chuck Bednarik back in the 40s and 50s with the Giants and Eagles that knocked Gifford out, where they thought he was dead because they put a cloth over him as they were taking him on the stretcher. But yeah, I think for everybody out there that does this type of content and talks about the game, we're all fans and we all enjoy the contact and competitiveness and nature of the sport. But that just is a fan. And I know I'm Matt, the NFL Fanatic, but I just want to speak today as Matt, the human. I don't care about, the rest of the game, if they play it at all or not. Honestly, the rest of the week, genuinely, it's taken a whole different meaning until we know if Damar Hamlin's going to survive from his critical condition at University of Cincinnati Hospital. I think it's just really hard for a lot of fans of the game, even outside of the Bengals and Bills fan base, to be motivated and excited to play, because what everybody's thinking about is that guy. I wish, a recovery from this. This, as a fan, and I'm just speaking, objectively here, last night was the most chilling feeling I've had as a football fan. I've watched over 15 years of games. And I've seen injuries from the head down. I remember Ryan Shazier even on that same field. They thought he was paralyzed. But fortunately he wasn't. But, that's something that in that situation, in that quick of an instant, to see a man's heartbeat just stop and his whole life flashes before his eyes. Now he's fighting for his life at the prime age of 24, second-year veteran on the University of Pittsburgh. It just moves your heartstrings. It makes you think that, there's, at the end of the day, even though it's a job, at the end of the day, football's a game. What I do for this channel is give a lot of great analysis for the games, but that's just a game, This man and his family have to deal with his own life now, moving forward. And we don't know, you don't know what's going to happen for his family, himself, if he can play again. If this team, the Bills, what the game's going to be, what the next week and the rest of the season for these two teams are going to be. Genuinely, the NFL announced that they're not going to, resume play for the rest of this week. Objectively, I would say that the Bills and Bengals game should be a tie and move on. And if the Bills and the Bengals, but more so the Bills, I know the Bengals, they have a lot of mental stuff they have to go through, especially T. Higgins. A lot of people should be thinking about T. Higgins as well in this because indirectly or not, he may have just, indirectly caused a manslaughter to a football player by his action. That was so routine, but they just... So, keep T. Higgins, everybody, in your prayers as well. And thoughts for what he's done, for what he has to go through himself now. But, you don't know, we don't know what's going to happen next week with the Bills game or the Bengals game when they play us, for the division. And I'm not saying to do the tie just so, the Ravens can still have a chance for the division. I could give a crap. I could care less about the Ravens-Bengals game or the Bills-Pats game for their seeding. I just think if you're just talking about it purely on the field, you can't take away the game. You can't really expect those two teams to play for the rest of the year in time unless you push back the season. A tie would be the best way. Because then, logistically, you could still have the Chiefs on next Saturday night. They play the Raiders. If they win, they become the number one overall seed. And it still gives the Bills and Patriots something to play for. And for the Bengals-Ravens, it also makes that game a division game as well. That makes that a division title game as well. So, So I like that idea, because you'd be 11-5-1 or 11-5 versus 11-5-1 versus 11-6. I think that might get the Bengals division anyway, but that's what I would do. I would not play this game for these two teams and reschedule this for next year, or switch out the Bills, Bengals, whoever their conference opponents were going to be, and just put this game in there. Because I think that'd be great. So I'm just gonna do a very quick video here. I'll mention some stats for some context on some of the games. But the one thing I am gonna do before I get into my picks is I would like, and I will have this in my description as well. I'm gonna put a link to the Damar Hamlin, the Chasing M's Foundation Community Toy Drive. So if anybody, any friends or any viewers, any of the progs that watch the video, I would encourage you to do the same, or at least mention it. I'm going to put this link in my video. Any of the viewers, Charles Darwin, Andrew Deutsch, Fire and Burn, anybody that watches, please, promote it, or put it in your channel or just put it out to all the people you know. Just to help this individual for a cause that is so great for the Pittsburgh kids. I'm going to put this in my description, just for everybody out there. You know, I know I'm just, you know, a small YouTuber that doesn't have that big a following, but I'm just going to do the best I can to do what I can do to help promote and, you know, a wonderful cause that's already raised over $4 million since last night's event. So, but yeah, so let me get into my picks. So this week, with the schedule, there's one game that is not determined, and we will not know now for a while when that game is going to be played, and that's Ravens at Bengals. If the Bengals would have won, the game would have been a 1. If the Bills would have won, that would have been a 4:25 game, because that would have been for the division. I will give you my pick for the game, but I don't know exactly what time it'll be, but I'll just let you know. So this Saturday, when the 13-3 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 6-10 Las Vegas Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs are 9.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Kansas City here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders plus 9.5. The next game on Saturday night for the AFC South Division title, when the 7-10 Tennessee Titans travel to Jacksonville. I'm sorry, the 7-9 Tennessee Titans travel to Jacksonville. Take on the 8-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 6.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Jacksonville here minus 6.5 and Jacksonville straight up. And then on Sunday, the last Sunday of the year, when the 12-4 Minnesota Vikings travel to Chicago to take on the 3-13 Chicago Bears. The Minnesota Vikings are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Minnesota here minus 3.5. And Minnesota straight up. The next game, if this game is being played, the 8-8 New England Patriots are going to Buffalo, taking on the 12-3 Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 7.5-point favorites in this game. If this game is played, I'm going to take Buffalo here minus 7.5 and Buffalo straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-13-1 Houston Texans travel to Indianapolis to take on the 4-11-1 Indianapolis Colts. The Houston Texans are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Excuse me. Give me the Indianapolis Colts here, one of my couple downright upsets of the week, or pure upsets of the week. Give me Indianapolis here plus 2.5 and Indianapolis straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Atlanta to take on the 6-10 Atlanta Falcons. This game had a big shift in it because Tom Brady and the Bucs have announced they're going to play their starters in this game, which is kind of amazing to me because I would have thought that they wouldn't have done that. But I'm going to take Tampa Bay here plus 3 from what I saw the lines. I'm going to take Tampa Bay here plus 3. Tampa Bay straight up to beat Atlanta in this game. In the next game, when the 7-9 New York Jets travel to Miami, take on the 8-8 Miami Dolphins. This is a game with a caveat, because I'm going to say that if Teddy Bridgewater starts, I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins here to win straight up. I'm still going to keep the New York Jets plus 3.5, but I'm going under the assumption that Skylar Thompson will start for the Dolphins. So that's why for right now, I'm going to take the New York Jets here plus 3.5 and New York Jets to outright win the football game. If if Teddy Bridgewater is cleared to play or he plays through his broken finger, I'm going to change my straight up pick to Miami. I'm still going to take the New York Jets plus 3.5 regardless, but I'm going to take Miami straight up if Teddy Bridgewater plays. Then the next game, when the 7-9 Carolina Panthers travel to New Orleans, take on the 7-9 New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me New Orleans here minus 3.5 and New Orleans straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-10 Cleveland Browns travel to Pittsburgh to take on the 8-8 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Pittsburgh here minus 2.5 and Pittsburgh straight up. Then in the 4:25 window, when the 4-12 Arizona Cardinals travel to San Francisco to take on the 12-4 San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are 14-point favorites in this game. Give me San Francisco here minus 14 and San Francisco straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-11 Los Angeles Rams travel to Seattle to take on the 8-8 Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Seattle here minus 6.5 and Seattle straight up. Then the next game, when the 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers travel to Denver to take on the 4-12 Denver Broncos. The Los Angeles Chargers are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me Los Angeles here minus 3.5 and Los Angeles straight up. Then the next game, when the 12-4 Dallas Cowboys travel to Washington to take on the 7-8-1 Washington Commanders. The Dallas Cowboys are 4-point favorites in this game. Give me Dallas here -4 and Dallas straight up. Then in the next game, when the 9-6-1 New York Giants travel to Philadelphia to take on the 13-3 Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are 14-point favorites in this game. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the New York Giants +14. Then in the next game, and this game may be a 104-25, when the 10-6 Baltimore Ravens travel to Cincinnati to take on the 11-5 or 11-4 Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are 7-point favorites in this game. Give me Cincinnati here -7 and Cincinnati straight up. And then finally in game 271 or 272 out of 272, the last game of the year, when the 8-8 Detroit Lions travel to Green Bay to take on the 8-8 Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are 4.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Green Bay Packers here to win straight up, but I'm going to take Detroit plus 4.5. So, I'm going to go very quickly over some of the key stats for Kansas City, Las Vegas. Some of the reasons. Kansas City over Las Vegas. Pat Mahomes is now 11-0 against the Denver Broncos all time. He and Andrew Luck are now both the only quarterbacks to play a division rival their first 11 times and win 11 straight games for that start. Also, a incredible stat for Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes has now run 27 touchdown passes to tight ends and running backs this year. And Jerick McKinnon now has a touchdown in 5 consecutive games. He's the first running back to have 5 straight reception touchdowns. I believe they've since 1950. And Patrick Mahomes is the third quarterback in NFL history to have multiple 5,000-yard seasons. The Raiders' offense was fantastic against against the 49ers. Stidham had 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. The only QBs with 3 touchdowns of the 49ers defense are Jarrett Stidham and Patrick Mahomes. Objectively, that's amazing. And they've done it with their offense. Davante Adams is 3rd in receiving yards, and Josh Jacobs is 1st in rushing yards. So they've done a phenomenal job offensively. But the problem is it's been their defense. The Raiders are 30th in sacks, and they have now blown the most 10-plus point leads in NFL history. And that game shouldn't even gone to overtime because Robbie Gould missed a chip shot 41-yard field goal. But in this game, look, Kansas City, Las Vegas. Vegas isn't playing for anything. KC's playing for the number 1 seed on the line. I think they're going to be great. Mahomes never lost a road divisional game in his career. If I remember correctly, he's 17-0 all time on road divisional games. KC's been phenomenal. I think that the Raiders, they could put up a fight. Remember, they had a 17-0 lead the last time they played Kansas City back in Week 4. But I'm going to take Kansas City here fairly easily just because of all those things I said. KC's been on fire. Vegas, they could put up a fight. I think 9.5 is too much, especially while Stidham played going against that weak Chiefs defense. But give me the Chiefs. They probably clinch the 1 seed on Saturday, depending on what happens with the Bills-Bengals situation and their games moving after that. That's why I like Las Vegas here plus 9.5 at Kansas City straight up. The next game, the Jacksonville Jaguars over the Tennessee Titans. The Jags have just been on a roll. They've caused turnovers in 4 consecutive games. That was also the first win against the Houston Texans for Trevor Lawrence. And also the first touchdown for Tyler Badie or Snoop Badley. Very happy for him. Former Raven running back. Very nice for him. And it's the first time since week 7 and 9 of back-to-back games the Jags defense has held a offense to under double-digit points. But the reason why I'm taking Jacksonville is because of the decision the Titans have made to go to 5th-year starter Josh Dobbs, who in his first start against the Dallas Cowboys last Thursday went 20 of 39 for 232 yards, touchdown, and interception. I did want to give Kevin Byard some credit. He's had 3 interceptions in 2 of the last 3 games. And many of the Titans were out. And going into the 4th quarter, that was a 4-point game. So, that Titans team, I think can compete, especially with Derrick Henry being probable for the game. But I look at the Jags, I see how good they've been playing running the ball. ETN's been fantastic. Trevor has been playing downright phenomenal football up until Sunday, where his worst game in about a month. But I just think they rebound. They played this team about 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, and they creamed them by over 20 points, I think, at home, with everything on the line for the division, with the confidence they have, the talent they just have at better positions all across the board, along with some of the players that are put on the IR. I think the Jags easily roll through this game to get their first AFC South Division title since 2017. So that's why I like Jacksonville minus 6.5, and Jacksonville straight up. The next game, the Minnesota Vikings over the Chicago Bears. This one, look, the Vikings have 12 wins, but they have a minus 19 point differential, which is amazing. Now, Kirk Cousins is also 7-16 in his career for late afternoon games. They have the second worst pass defense and the second worst overall defense in terms of yards in the entire league. You know, and I want to give Jair Alexander his credit. He wore that stupid, ridiculous hat that people saw from the Commanders running back Brian Robinson. But he did shut down Justin Jefferson to a new career low of only 1 reception for 15 yards. And my issue is it's just the Bears. The Bears are just not a good football team. I do want to give Justin Fields credit. He does have now the second most rushing yards in a single season behind Lamar Jackson. He passed Michael Vick for that on Sunday. And the Bears have their longest active losing streak in franchise history, which is saying something for a franchise that's been around since the 1930s. So that's going on 90 years of existence, and that's the longest streak they've had ever, which is really amazing. And kind of a weird thing that Fields, for the second time this year, had more rushing yards than he did passing, and he only completed 33% of his passes. So I think he's more Vic that way, that I think he is not that great of a thrower and more of a dynamic runner. So, but we'll see. But I'm going to take the Vikings here because even though the Vikings have been in all these one-score games, like, they should be able to beat this Bears team, right? Like, the Bears team's been absolutely horrible. I don't have a lot of confidence in them, and I just think the Bears didn't even play Nathan Peterman just due to Justin Fields' injury. He got sacked 7 times yesterday, so I think this game could be competitive just due to the fact of how the Vikings have put in every single game this year. But I think the Vikings' talent, the lack of defense, and the Bears' just willingness to get the year over with if they start Peterman, if Fields can't go, should give the Vikings a nice, comfortable win to get them ready for their biggest playoff game in a while, probably playing the New York Giants in a very interesting close game just from the game 2 weeks ago. So that's what I like Minnesota here, minus 3.5, and Minnesota straight up. The next game, the Buffalo Bills over the New England Patriots. The Pats finally won a game against the Dolphins for the first time in 4 tries. And it was the first touchdown at home that Mac Jones threw to Tyquan Thornton. They have the 6th worst offense, the Pats do. I think that's where a lot of their struggles have been on the offensive side of the ball due to Mac Jones and Matt Patricia, the combo. And also Mac Jones, for the first time this year, he's thrown 2 touchdowns or more in back-to-back games. You know, look, the Bills, I'm not really going to talk about the Bills. You know, me talking about the Bills football sense, and I know people, you know, could be going like, oh my God, you're talking about football, but it's like, this is what I do. And I just did everything, you know, about Damar Hamlin, and I'm putting his thing in, you know, so if people have a problem with me talking about the actual games and giving some analysis, you can watch somebody different or, you know, make your own stuff about, you know, Damar Hamlin updates and all that, you know. But, you know, for Josh Allen, his last 5 games against the Patriots, he's at 15 touchdowns, so only 1 interception. They're 4-1 in those games. And the Bills are the only team in the NFL this year to have 100-plus rushing yards in every single game. That's primarily due to Josh Allen. And it's something to where, like, I know the Pats beat Buffalo last year in Buffalo where Mac Jones only threw for 3 passes. That's not the norm. And I just feel like for the Bills, if they want to play, if this game isn't played, then everything gets changed and, you know, my whole record and everything just goes into kaput. But I do believe that the Bills, if they play this game, should win just based off their talent, their health, most of their players, and just if Damar is going to be okay, the confidence and the love they're going to play for their teammate in order to support him and honor him for what he's meant to Buffalo and that. So, excuse me. That's why I like Buffalo -7. Buffalo straight up. I'm sorry. Buffalo -7.5 and Buffalo straight up. The next game, the Indianapolis Colts over the Houston Texans. I'm sorry. The Houston Texans over the Indianapolis Colts. I'm sorry. So, I'm going to have to change that. So, let me give a quick update here. And let me see if I messed up something here. Okay. So, I'm taking Houston here. So let me just for the viewers at home, just for a quick update, I'm going to take Houston here plus 2.5 over Indianapolis. And the reason for that pick is because of that I've seen Davis Mills play, and he's better. He's better than Sam Ehlinger. So there's not a lot here to talk about. I do want to say that Jeff Saturday is a horrible fourth-quarter coach. He's been outscored 97-9 in the fourth quarter since he's taken over. And the fact that the Colts are giving up 35.25 points per game, 35.25 points per game since over the last 4 weeks, and since benching Matt Ryan back several weeks ago, no Colts quarterback has passed for more than 208 yards in a single game. So the Texans have been nice with Dameon Pierce, though the Texans, their offense isn't that great because their drives. Their offensive drives are the shortest in the league, which is really sad. And this is one of those things to where, like, look, they both tied the first game. So this is very much like Giants-Commanders a couple weeks ago. Honestly, if they both tied again, I think it'd be perfect for how bad these two teams are. But in this spot, with Nick Foles and Matt Ryan being down, and it's Sam Ehlinger, the other time Sam Ehlinger played, they didn't even convert a third down. I at least know Davis Mills can do that. I do think Davis Mills, with his talent, should be able to go into Indianapolis and win a laugher and stinker of a 1 o'clock last week of the year game where both teams are out of the playoffs and everybody just moves on. But once again, I'm going to clarify my pick. I'm going to take Houston here, plus 2.5, over the Indianapolis Colts, and Houston straight up. So the next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Atlanta Falcons. I'm taking Tampa here because they're going to play their starters. Tom Brady had a season high in passing yards. Mike Evans is the first receiver in NFL history to have 1,000 yards in 9 consecutive seasons. And the Bucs have forced 3 turnovers in back-to-back games, which is incredibly impressive. And here's the sad thing for the Bucs franchise. If you look at the Bucs franchise, Tom Brady in 3 years already has the 3rd most passing yards and the 2nd most thrown touchdowns. Only Vinny Testaverde and Jameis Winston have more passing yards, and only Jameis has more passing touchdowns through regular and postseasons combined. That's amazing that Tom in just 3 years has moved himself up that high in all-time Bucs charts. That, especially when Tom retires, may not be the same ever again. But if Tampa's going to play their starters, look, Brady going up against rookies, it's pretty pitiful how rookies do. I know Brock Purdy beat him before, but that's a bit different. But also, Brady's never lost to the Falcons. And I just feel like, even though Desmond Ridder, look, he's completed 63.5% of his passes, he's very much like Malik Willis in the regard that he has not thrown a touchdown yet in the NFL. He's let some drives, but he hasn't thrown one himself. So, but with the fact it's a meaningless game, and the fact that it's Ridder and only his 4th career start, and Brady's never lost to the Falcons, I feel like the fact you're getting points, but I think that was because people didn't think Tom was actually going to play. But the fact that Tom and the starters are going to play against this Falcons team, I do think they roll over easily the Atlanta Falcons with a plus 3 point spread that will probably change right after this video. So that's why I like Tampa Bay here, plus 3, and Tampa Bay straight up. The next game, the New York Jets over the Miami Dolphins right now. The Jets continue their longest active streak in not making the playoffs. It is a 12th consecutive season they haven't made it. Mike White was also 0-5 while under duress against Seahawks. Hopefully that's where he threw 2 interceptions. And here's the saddest thing for the Jets. They've only scored 4 offensive touchdowns over this 5-game losing streak. And speaking of 5-game losing streaks, the Dolphins have been on a 5-game losing streak because they've gone from 3-0 to 3-3 to 8-3 to 8-8, and now here they are, the last game of the year. If New England and Buffalo do play, Miami has a chance by beating the Jets to get into the playoffs as the 7th seed. But I just think the problem is Tua's in the concussion protocol. He's probably not going to be out for this game, just from what they've said and the reports. And Teddy Bridgewater has a broken finger on his throwing hand, so it's probably going to be Skylar Thompson. If Teddy can put a cast or something around his hand so he can make sure to grip it well and throw it well, and if he plays, I will take the Dolphins straight up to win. But I think the Jets defense and Mike White just will play well enough and consistent enough on the road to keep this game within 3.5 points, regardless of who the quarterback is. Also, I'm going to give the credit to Tyreek Hill, another 2-yard rushing touchdown. So, excuse me. That's why I like the New York Jets here, plus 3.5 for right now. and the New York Jets straight up. If the Miami Dolphins do go with Bridgewater, I will take Miami straight up, but keep the New York Jets at plus 3.5. So, the next game, the New Orleans Saints over the Carolina Panthers. This is one to where, look, DJ Moore for the first time in his career, he scored 3 straight touchdowns. And also for me, he's gone 3 consecutive games with a touchdown. I do want to give Yetur Gross-Matos and Frankie Louvu a lot of credit. They both had 2 sacks, and Louvu had 13 combined tackles. He was an incredible beast on that field on Sunday against the Buccaneers. And Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill. Pretty good. Look, Andy Dalton's 11th quarterback rating, and Taysom Hill leads all the Saints with 9 rushing and receiving touchdowns. He is their Swiss Army knife, and they use him to a T, and incredibly effectively. And Marshawn Lattimore, after missing the last 11 games, got the game-winning pick 6 off Gardner Minshew. But with the Packers beating the Saints are officially out of playoff contention. The Panthers got out of playoff contention by losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the South. And I just think in this game, when you have these two teams that are equal in terms of talent offensively, running backs, offensive lines, defensive lines, better secondary for New Orleans, better run defense of Carolina, I'll take the home team and the better quarterback. Which those two go to Andy Dalton and Andy Dalton and the Saints. So that's why I like New Orleans here minus 3.5, and New Orleans straight up. The next game, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to take Pittsburgh here to beat Cleveland, based off the sense of how dominant the Steelers' defense has been. They have they're 7-2 now with TJ Watt finishing the game, and in 8 of 9 games TJ Watt has started, they have held opponents to under 20 points. Deontay Johnson's had a solid year, but he hasn't been able to get in the end zone at all, which is very surprising. But he does have 844 yards and 84 receptions through this year, so he's done a good job for his role. Maybe not what I expected or people should expect from the Steelers wide receiver that got a 2-year, $36 million extension just this year, but it's been good enough. And for all the stuff I've said about Deshaun Watson, let me give him a little bit of credit. He played his best game of the year against the Commanders, even though Gary Carson gave the Browns that victory. He did throw for 3 touchdowns, which is, going into the game, ties the amount of touchdowns he had the previous 4 games. So it does seem like with Carson Wentz's help, who turned into another hideous turnover machine game, I do feel like Deshaun Watson, gained some confidence going into this Pittsburgh game to show a statement before they go into next season that Deshaun Watson is the guy moving forward. Also, congratulate Amari Cooper. He has a career high in receiving touchdowns now this year. Excuse me. And also, but the other reason why I'm taking Pittsburgh is the dominance of the Steelers at home against the Browns. In 18 of the last 19, Pittsburgh is 18-1 in the last 19 years against the Cleveland Browns at home. So this is all warming up and turning into a golden opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers to give themselves still the opportunity to make the playoffs. I think they do their run game. That defense will be much more effective than what the Commanders' defense was. And I genuinely believe Pittsburgh wins this game in a gritty, tough, but fitting AFC North finale. So that's why I like Pittsburgh here, minus 2.5. Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, the San Francisco 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals. This is one to where San Fran has their longest winning streak since 1997. They have 9 straight wins. Purdy's the 4th quarterback in NFL history to start 4-0 for a career. He's been sensational. And they're playing, the Cardinals, who have gone through 4 different quarterbacks this year. That's the most in the league. And I just think San Francisco, knowing that the 1 seed is still available, they just roll through the Cardinals to give Brock Purdy the Jimmy Garoppolo Memorial 5-0 start for a career as a 49er quarterback. Could Arizona maybe make competitive? Sure, it's division rivalry and 14's a lot. But I just think from what Arizona's going through, they're about ready to fire Cliff Kingsbury. And I believe that the 49ers get their 10th straight win and have the most momentum going into the playoffs, probably playing the Packers in the first round. So that's like San Francisco here minus 14 and San Francisco straight up. The next game, the Seattle Seahawks over the Los Angeles Rams. Baker has had 4 touchdowns and 1 interception and 67% completion percentage through the past 3 games. They haven't been great. 2 of them have been losses. 2 of them have been, one great drive, and the other game against the Broncos defense was pretty impressive. The Rams also now have the worst record in NFL history for a defending Super Bowl champion. And Cam Akers, though, for the credit for the first time in his career, went back-to-back games with over 100 rushing yards. Through 12 games, the Seahawks led the league in turnovers. In their 3-game losing streak, they had no turnovers. But on Sunday against the Jets, they got 3 more turnovers, which helped them get a dominating victory. Geno played efficient football. He threw 2 early touchdowns. They were up 17-0 fairly quickly. Michael Jackson got a big turnover on a fumble from one of the Jets receivers. And I just think in this kind of spot, Pete Carroll knows what's at stake. He knows that the Seahawks, can get this win and then just hope that the Packers lose to the Lions, which is possible. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's possible. And I just think at the end of the day, Baker, he was going into L.A., he went into Green Bay. He's going now into the cold Pacific Northwest, I believe, for the second time in his career. And I don't think it's going to be pretty. And I think the Seahawks, they at least handle their part of business. I don't think they get in, but at least they're going to handle their business. And Pete Carroll and John Schneider deserve a lot of credit for proving every one of the Russ fanatics like myself dead wrong. And Geno had those receipts. He may not be able to write a lot, but he at least could say, I was better than Russ. But I know Geno, like he said to the media, he's not going to write back. So that's why I can say that. But that's all. Like Seattle here -6, Seattle -6.5, and Seattle straight up. The next game, the Los Angeles Chargers over the Denver Broncos. This is one to where the Chargers are just rolling. Austin Eckler has the most scrimmage touchdowns over the last 2 years. He got another 2 on Sunday. He played fantastically, including that big 70-plus yard run. Joey Bosa, for his return after that groin injury that sidelined for a majority of the year, did have nice 2 solo tackles. And during this 4-game winning streak, they've held opponents to under 70 points per game in all 4 games. So that's a pretty impressive statement there. And they held Denver the last time they played them to 13. They only just could score 16 themselves. Russ, I think he had his best game, or he had a much better game than any of the games saw out of Hackett. But he did throw out 1 horrible interception. Even though he did run for 2 touchdowns and threw another one. He now is the 6th quarterback in NFL history with 300 passing touchdowns and at least 25 rushing touchdowns. In this game, I think the Chargers, they don't need it. But I do think they play their starters. They get to an 11-6 record. I think they, are probably the most dangerous wildcard team in the AFC. That's not a division winner. I take them over Baltimore. I take them over everybody else. And I do think right now, this would be, depending on what happens of injuries, I do believe the Chargers beat the AFC South champion, whoever it is. I think they beat the Titans. And they give redemption for the Jaguars game that happened in Week 3, which was a 31-10 beating that I'm pretty sure a lot of those Charger players will remember and hopefully take out on the Jags. So, that's why I like the Los Angeles Chargers here, -3.5, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. The next game, the Dallas Cowboys over the Washington Commanders. I'm taking Dallas here because Washington's out of it. Ron Rivera was clueless and didn't realize that he could be out of the playoffs, but thanks to Green Bay and Seattle winning, he's officially out of the playoffs. Zeke's had 9 straight games of rushing touchdown. That's a new career high for him. And here's the thing. Dak is number 1 since he's been back in completion percentage and touchdowns thrown, but now he's number 1 overall for the league, tied with Derek Carr with 14 interceptions. And the Cowboys, look, they've won in their last 8 games. They are 6-2 with both losses coming in overtime. Again, with a 14-point lead against the Packers and a 10-plus point lead against the Jaguars. So this Cowboy team, it's played pretty well. And I think they ended by sweeping the Commanders again. Carson Wentz had the worst quarterback rating of his career. And in the last 6 drives, after they had that 21-play marvelous drive all the way down the field to get 7, to go up 7-3. The Commanders' offense under Carson Wentz went on to go gain 108 total yards and kick a field goal the rest of the game. So I think Dallas is going to play their starters because they don't know if Philadelphia is going to, be able to beat the Giants backups or not. So I think Dallas rolls over them, and Ron Rivera gets fired at the end of the year, and the Cowboys prepare for their showdown against the Tampa Bay Bucks likely. So that's why Dallas here -4 and Dallas straight up. The next game, the Philadelphia Eagles over the New York Giants. The New York Giants, congratulations to them. First playoff appearance since 2016. Daniel Jones, 291 total scrimmage yards with 4 touchdowns overall, 2 rushing and 2 scoring. And Landon Collins got a big pick 6 on Nick Foles for 52 yards. And the Eagles, look, they've been banged up. I want to give their Eagles defensive line credit. They have the first foursome in NFL history with 10 plus sacks for each of them. But they could not take it. Excuse me. They could not take advantage of the bad Saints run defense. They just continued passing. And for the first time all year, the Eagles were shut out in the first half. They were averaging 19 points per game in the first half all year long, which led the league. And Devontae Smith is now tied for the most single-season receptions for the Eagles in franchise history. He gets 1 more catch, becomes the all-time single-season leader, which I think is incredibly impressive. And it's one of those things where, look, the Eagles, they should get Jalen Hurts back. If he plays, they should be able to roll him. And you can say, look, the Giants play their backups. But I think Tyrod with that backup offense and that defense can play well enough to cover 14. So I don't think the Giants have any chance to win. But 14 points against this Giants team, which is overachieved by leaps and bounds, that's way too much not to give credit to Dayball to keep open a 2-score game. This time, especially on the road. So that's why I like the New York Giants here plus 14, Philadelphia straight up. And lastly, the Green Bay Packers over the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff right now has the longest active streak in the NFL in terms of not throwing an interception. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the first Lions wide receiver to have 100-plus receptions since Calvin Johnson did it in 2012. Jamal Williams also has the second most rushing touchdowns in Lions single-season history with 15. Only Barry Sanders has more. And James Houston and Aiden Hutchinson are both leading rookies in terms of sacks. They're about a sack difference, but those two guys are on the same team, and they're rookies. Just one was a number 2 pick, and another was a 6th-round pick at Jackson State. Go Dion. But I think those two are phenomenal in that way. And so, and Jared Goff, look, he had a phenomenal home stretch to end the year at home. He had 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Played sensational. His road record's a lot different. Outside of the state of New Jersey, the Lions have only won 1 road game this year, and that was in Chicago. And they're going into Lambeau, which since 1995, the Lions have only gone to Lambeau 3 times since 1995 and won the game. And the most amazing stat about LaFleur and Rodgers in December and January is that Lombardi and Bart Starr had the best overall record for that stretch of time in December and January. Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers have a better record. They are 18-1 now, all time in December and January, in those games together. And since the Packers have been winning, they have the best turnover differential over the last 4 weeks. They're 3rd ranked in defense and have allowed under 6 points in the second half over the last 4 games. So I do think the Lions can be competitive with that offense, and I think even if they're out of it, Dan Campbell's not a quitter. Dan Campbell's going to be tough. He'll be physical. He'll be gritty. And he'll get that Lions team motivated to play, even if they're playing for nothing. But I just can't go against Rodgers and that Packer mentality, momentum, and moxie in prime time on the big stage to end the year. Game 2, 71 or 72, regardless of what happens to the Ravens-Bengals. I think the Packers win this game, but I do think the Lions cover. So, and lastly, Ravens and Bengals. I'll take the Bengals if they play. The Bengals are just clearly the better team. The Ravens are not going to be playing for anything, and I think they should rest their starters. So those are my comments and thoughts for my video for the games this week. Like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page. Check out all the other great progs like Hamlin's Picks, The Blind Canadian Cat, Bridgewater's Finest. And also, like I said, I'm going to put the link to Damar Hamlin's charity that he has. Just for anybody out there, just please spread the word. And everybody out there, please keep his family, himself, his teammates, and all the fans of Buffalo in your thoughts and prayers as this situation continues to evolve. So, So that is it. So until next week for my first week of the playoff prediction. And again, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with the other game. That might get pushed too. But until then, this is Matt the Fanatic signing off. Until next week, everybody. So long.